it was a big news day, so I decided we had to. I decided we had to go do a bonus stream. Also want to react to Kristi Noem's press conference live. So, bonus stream for all of you. I hope you're happy with that. Everyone say thank you in the chat. So everyone say thank you for the bonus stream. Why is my chat box not working? That's fun. I couldn't stream to Twitch either. There was some problem with Twitch. It wouldn't go to Twitch. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. My chat box won't load. What if we delete the chat box and reload it that way, huh? Let's just add a new source. It sucks. The chat box won't load. The chat box doesn't work. It won't even let me see the settings. It's frozen. I'm having some problem with Streamlabs, to be honest with you guys. So, does this one work? That one doesn't work. Oh, does it? Oh, it does. That one's working. All right. Well, I guess we have that one. I hear and see you. I'm glad you guys can see me on YouTube, but Twitch didn't go. So, and now the Streamlabs isn't pulling the YouTube chat. So, I've got this stream up in the other monitor so I can keep an eye on it while we wait for Kristi Noem to come out. But I figured while we burn some time waiting for Kristi Noem to go live, we can talk about some other things. Obviously, first of all, I will be requesting my friends, asking for help from some of my other creator friends. We're going to be hopefully getting the streams up as podcasts, audio podcasts, so you can get your friends and family to listen to the smartest political commentator you know, if they're not a YouTube type. So that'll be good. So we'll be doing that. And second of all, I wrote my goals down for the year. So I think while we wait for Kristi Noem here, we'll go over the goals. So I can go over the goals with chat. So our goals for the year. Oh my goodness. It made 7 events when I was trying to go live. So let's delete the events. We've got a bunch of stream events here that are a bunch of streams here that have been scheduled and then not gone live with because I had to restart the stream a couple times, or couldn't start the stream a couple times because the hangups with Streamlabs. So our goals for the year. The viewer count isn't working either. There's something wrong with Streamlabs. Oh, there it is. That's super weird. Toggle selective recording. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Streamlabs is having some issue. Anyway, our goals for the year. Wow, that's so many people watching. Our goals for the year: 130 hours live. So the way we came to that number is there are 52 weeks in a year. So we wanted to be live for, let me do the math here. We want to be live a minimum of 2.5 hours a week. So we'll be hopefully putting out a minimum of 2.5 hours of streaming a week. On average, sorry. So we'll average 2.5 hours of streaming a year. Obviously, the stream on the 3rd was a little short, so we'll be making up for that tonight. And we want to put out 125 videos. Mostly those will be stream clips, so that's going to come out to about 3 videos a week, hopefully, or a little less than 3 videos a week. We're going to be doing yeah, a little more than 2 videos a week. We want to reach 5,000 YouTube subscribers. We're at 1,500 YouTube subscribers right now. So if you're not watching, click subscribe. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, click subscribe. 1,000 Twitch followers, which is going to be a problem if we can't multi-stream. Going to have to figure out what's going on with Streamlabs. And we want to be monetized on at least 2 of the 3 of Twitch, YouTube, and X. So those are our goals. Those are our goals for the year. And I can announce, I wrote those last week. And I can tell you right now that we do have the qualifications to be monetized on YouTube. So I'm going to be signing up for that and getting reviewed by YouTube, but we do have the necessary prerequisites to be monetized on YouTube. So hopefully we will be making some money on YouTube imminently. So that's exciting. Cool. So real quick, let's shout out Nick Prohl, you're here. Thank you so much for watching. Erebos is here. Thank you so much for watching. Christopher Burks is here. Thank you so much for watching. Gary is here. Thank you so much for watching. HG Moss is here. And Moonshiner Monk is here. So I appreciate you all being here. So quick 2 stories that we'll be doing longer form on Saturday. Quickly, 2 quick topics. These are just kind of teasers for Saturday, but you can look forward to this on Saturday. So here's some big stuff. First of all, Trump is going to be making moves to ban institutional investors from owning homes, single-family homes. So his statement on Truth Social said, "For a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations." So that's huge news. We love that. And we can see, just pull up this other tweet here. We can see Blackstone has taken an immediate dive. So Blackstone's market cap has taken an $18 billion hit today. Not sure where it closed, so let's just check where Blackstone closed. Blackstone got all the way down to $18 billion. It looks like it rebounded a little bit. Looks like we've rebounded a little bit. So, but it's down a total of 5.5% today. Sacred Weights, thank you for watching. So Blackstone is down. That is a good thing. The second thing Trump announced today: all United States defense contractors and the defense industry as a whole, beware. While we make the best military equipment in the world, no other country is even close, defense contractors are currently issuing massive dividends to their shareholders and massive stock buybacks at the expense and detriment of investing in plants and equipment. This situation will no longer be allowed or tolerated. Also, executive pay packages in the defense industry are exorbitant and unjustifiable. Given how slowly these companies are delivering vital equipment to our military and our allies, salaries, stock options, and every other form of compensation are far too high for these executives. Defense companies are not producing our great military equipment rapidly enough, and once produced, not maintaining it properly or quickly. From this moment forward, these executives must build new and modern production plants for delivering and maintaining this important equipment and for building the latest models of future military equipment. Until they do so, no executive should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million, which is as high as it sounds, is a mere fraction of what they are making now. Additionally, the maintenance and repair of equipment once sold is far too slow and must be immediately enhanced. As president, I am demanding that maintenance be spot on time. Therefore, I will not permit dividends or stock buybacks for defense companies until such a time as these problems are rectified. Likewise, for salaries and executive compensation, military equipment is not being made fast enough. It must be built now with the dividends, stock buybacks, and overcompensation of executives rather than borrowing from financial institutions or getting the money from your government. Longer term, this is good for both executives and shareholders because it will be great for our country. Thank you for attention to this matter. Make America great again. So, we can also see so Lockheed took a 4.7% hit today, ended down 4.8%, and Boeing is down about 1%. General Dynamics is down 4% as well. Boeing is obviously not as affected because they make civilian planes as well. So those are both great economic moves, great financial moves. We're super happy about that. We'll be getting more into that on Saturday after I have some more time to do some research into some data on those things. So yeah, as Moonshiner Monk is saying in the chat, it is really funny because I can't wait for libs to get upset at Trump for doing something that they did. So, and while we continue to wait on this press conference, I figured we could watch some of the. We're not going to watch all of this, but we could watch some of the House hearing today on the Somalian fraud in Minnesota. So there was a House hearing today on Somalian fraud in Minnesota, which is obviously tied up in the ICE enforcement happening in Minneapolis against Somalians. But we will watch this until this starts.
These criminals have stolen at least $9 billion. The fraudsters, many of whom are from Minnesota's Somali community, have stolen from programs meant to feed needy kids, provide services to autistic children, house low-income and disabled Americans, and provide health care to vulnerable Medicaid recipients. Fraudsters like these take millions to enrich themselves while providing nothing, overstating or outright faking the services. How many children have gone hungry because fraudsters stole money that was intended to provide them with food? Because fraud, already investigating, have either been asleep at the wheel or it happened. These legislators fix it. It's a 5% funneled, even alleged, and American.
I don't care about the opening statements, so we're just going to...
in every private sector business and to better something.
We're just going to pop through the opening statements here and just...
In Minnesota, which we're talking about today, 1,000 kids. These kids didn't commit fraud. So I want to know why they should be punished. Last night, he said he's withholding all possibly medication.
We appreciate you being here today and look forward to your testimony. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statements and they will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statements to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone.
Yeah, we don't care about the opening statements of the actual congressman, but we will listen to the opening statements of the witnesses, and never mind. I just want everybody to know that my stream is not what's blown out here. The exposure on the exposure on this stream is what's blown out.
Everybody good? Keep talking. You want more? Or you good?
The audio balancing is also on there and bad. What's going on specifically? Specifically, a woman was shot while she attempted to run over ICE agents today, and she was shot. She's dead. 37-year-old woman, actually from Missouri, if I remember correctly, Missouri plates, so she's not from Minneapolis. But yeah, so Chris Newham's doing a press conference on that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I want to start out by addressing the loss of life that we saw here in Minneapolis today. Any loss of life is a tragedy, and I think all of us can agree that in this situation it was preventable. I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis. We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June. He sustained injuries at that time as well. And let me remind you why we're all here in this city today and why we've been here. In communities across this country and here in Minneapolis, we're just enforcing the laws that we have in this country. For years under President Biden, tens of millions of dangerous criminal illegal aliens, terrorists, and suspected terrorists were allowed to invade our country over our southern border. They were allowed to steal, to defraud, and to perpetuate violence against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Fry's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Frey refuse to protect Minnesotans, and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we're here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country, and because we're no longer going to allow
I don't think Walz is going to go to jail. It seems unlikely as of now. I would like him to, but it seems unlikely.
To proliferate drugs and to steal American taxpayers' dollars. This state has faced unprecedented immigration fraud. It's seen unprecedented benefit fraud. Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs. This city has burned before, and your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe. With that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Secretary, no, Mayor Frey called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Secretary, can you expand too on the agent's injuries? The president said that he's lucky to be alive.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. He has been released, but he's going to spend some time with his family.
Can you clarify whether he was hit before or after the gunshot?
Spend some time with his family as politics for he's on paid leave during investigation.
Secretary, no, has the agent been relieved of his duty, or can you give us any other insight?
Now, we're following the standard protocol procedures we do in situations like this. When there's an officer-involved shooting, we make sure that we get the facts and that we are getting the statements from everybody involved and make sure that investigators are handling the decisions.
Secretary, no, have ICE operations paused because of what happened today?
No, we're still out on the streets doing our work to get dangerous criminals off of the streets of Minneapolis.
Can you give us any insight into your conversation with the governor?
You know, Tim and I have known each other for years. We served in Congress together. We both ran for governor the same year and have served as governor at the same times. So we were colleagues, and we discussed what happened here today. We have two very different viewpoints of it. I talked specifically about the fact that we have laws. They need to be enforced. He knows that I believe sanctuary policies have protected criminals and placed a priority of them over the citizens that live here, and he knows we'll continue to do our work, and I encouraged him to work with us. We've never had a cooperative arrangement with law enforcement here. Whenever we've done investigations, whenever we've done police work, when we've been doing what we can to bring people to justice for the crimes that they commit, we haven't had the cooperation of the state of Minnesota or the city police here under the mayor's direction. If you talk to any of these federal law enforcement officers, they'll say that when they call for backup in a situation, that it's hit and miss. They were grateful today that the police chief and local law enforcement showed up at the scene and helped secure it to make sure
That's
that
crazy.
nobody was
That's
harmed and
wild
the
that
FBI
it's
could do their
that
work.
sometimes they
But
just
I would
don't show up.
encourage them to work with us, that we could form a partnership that would make sure that individuals have the opportunity to have a safe Minneapolis.
Secretary, no, will body camera footage be
Do you
released?
stand behind the use of force, and will any of those use of force guidelines be altered or changed in the future?
Why would they be
It's
changed?
clearly established law that a vehicle driven by a person and used to harm someone is a deadly weapon. Deadly force is perfectly lawful when a threat is faced by a weapon. So I do believe that this officer used his training in this situation, and we'll let the FBI continue the investigation.
I feel like asking if the
Shooting happened before or after the vehicle hit the officer?
I know you keep asking that, but that doesn't mean that the FBI is going to give you an answer today.
Well,
There
I'm just
will be an
trying to figure out
investigation. We
clear-
want to make sure that it's factual. What I would ask is that as we go forward from here today, that we
That's
all
a weird answer.
remember that
The
our
question
job
about
is to
changing
have
the rules
peaceful
basically is an
discussions
admission
and
that he
encourage our
followed the
local law
rules, but that they
enforcement
want
and
them
state
to
law
not be
enforcement
that.
to work with us. We are going to continue to operate here in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
and
these
the state of
questions are really
Minnesota
bad.
to make sure we're going after dangerous criminals. One of the key focuses that we've had here is a focus on individuals who are sexual predators and are involved in child exploitation. When I was just here yesterday, we arrested individuals who
I think that's a
were,
joke, but that's a good
charged with
joke.
criminal assault and sexual assault and people that exploited children. Why would you want to keep them on your streets? President Trump has promised to go after the worst of the worst, and that's exactly what we're doing in Minneapolis. By not working with us, Governor Walz and Mayor Fry are putting those criminals and prioritizing them over our children and our grandchildren.
Governor Wolf said that he is not going to give any heads up when there is going to be.
And that's simply not true. He said that to me on the phone too, so I'll get him the documentation that he needs so that he knows that we would love to coordinate with him. He doesn't give us access to any information on criminals, let us know who he's detained, doesn't honor our detainers, and has individuals and criminals in his jurisdiction that he won't turn over us today too.
You
Yes.
mentioned that the officer involved today was once before rammed by a vehicle. Can you explain the difference between that instance and today? Was a firearm discharged then? If not, what was the big difference?
That's a
I
decent
won't speak to
question.
that case right now, but we can get you the
Okay,
details
we're
and
not gonna get an
information
answer?
on that. But the fact of the matter is, he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today.
Given the threat of vehicle counters, are you going to change the way
You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons.
Are you going to change the
This
training for
domestic act
officers
of
to help
terrorism,
them
to
make
use
safe
your vehicle to try to kill.
Are you going to change the training? Yeah, are you going to tell law enforcement to let themselves be run over? She literally just asked, are you going to change the training?
People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety. And Americans deserve better.
So can you say what they were in the National Guard? Deploying the National
That
Guard?
hasn't been a part of the discussion. I know Governor Walz mentioned some of that earlier in his press conference, but you know, we've got law enforcement officers here that will continue to work, and we're hopeful that the public recognizes that the work that we do every day makes America safe again.
Can you give
Thank you for
insight
that.
into the operation that was happening at 34th and Portland? Why
We
it
had
was there?
law enforcement officers that were out there doing an enforcement action, and a vehicle got stuck in the snow, and so they had called for other people to come and help them get that vehicle out. Those officers were trying to free the vehicle when the harassment started, when the protesters were out there impeding their vehicles and preventing them from leaving the scene.
Was it at a particular
I don't know if she's allowed to give better answers, H.G. Moss.
Was there a
Yeah.
crime that person maybe committed that you were going after? I mean, you mentioned sexual crime. Okay. Will body camera footage be released?
I will let the FBI decide.
Were they on target today when they were in that neighborhood?
They were returning back to headquarters, I believe, to start a new operation, had just completed one.
Was it a nice vehicle?
Well, thank you. What's that?
Was it a nice vehicle that needed to be pushed
I was one of the vehicles that ICE officers were using, but remember, when we operate in a task force model. So we have other federal agencies that work with us, and we're very grateful for that. We have CBP officers, the FBI, DEA, ATF, all of those all work with us every day in a task force model. We appreciate it. We'd love to have the state police, and we'd also love to have the Minneapolis police chief and his team be alongside of us while we're out there doing those enforcement operations.
Were the agents there?
That will
Body
give
cameras
you
that
more
were on today?
information as it is revealed, but thank you and everybody. Let's work together to make sure that we can continue to help the city be safer, get more criminals off the streets, and ensure that our public has the opportunity to pursue the American dream in a city they can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have an idea on the victim?
As far as name, I'm not gonna get ahead of, I think.
if anything else happens.
Is there anybody that is not doing a live shot? Is there anybody that is not staying for a live shot? You're not, okay? Okay, I'll get you guys your escorts. 1 second, okay?
They got to get escorts out of the building. Oh my gosh. Crazy. Wild. Okay, let's go. So here's a live shot of Minneapolis right now. Looks like there is a large protest gathering. So that could develop into something. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Let's see if there's any live coverage. I can't spell. I forgot how to spell. Yeah, check if they're illegal. I was watching Fox earlier. I was watching the 5. And they had a live shot of Minneapolis, and they're like waving. They're out here waving. Oh, here we go. There we go. Waving Mexican flags. You guys cannot hear that. There's no way you can hear that because I can't hear it. Bro, it's so quiet. It's so quiet. What the heck is going on? It's very, very quiet. Crazy how quiet that is. Bum, bum, bum. Well, I can't turn it up. Let me check this. Yeah, that's as loud as it gets. It says they're about to sing. I wonder if I can find a better shot of this. I'm wondering if I can find a better shot of this. Okay, I cannot hear. There's no sound here. I hope they sing Imagine. Bro, that would be so funny. They're just chanting Ice Out Now. Dun 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 dun. That's definitely not live because it's definitely dark in Minneapolis right now. That's also not live because it seems to be dark in Minneapolis. It seems like it should be dark in Minneapolis.
Been really laid out for us, so we don't know exactly.
Just
let's try to find Minneapolis protest live.
we're now going to bring.
Nope.
I want to bring in Mike Tobin.
Nope. There's nowhere that's giving live coverage. So we need to check on Tim Pool, see if he's talking about Civil Oregon. I feel like he probably is. Should we check Twitch? Let's see what oh, dude, Hassan has to be live. That would be so funny. Called it.
Woo! Yeah, motherfucker looking like Elmer Fudd, bro. Come on. Elmer Fudd is.
All right, well, that's gay. Let's see if there's Twitch.tv. Confirm destination. Yeah, confirm destination. ICE protest.
And killed right in between these trees here. She was a white American citizen. Like the sister said, enough is enough.
Not a whitey.
TikTok live, Minneapolis.
This happened today, this morning, between.
White liberal women are not safe, apparently. Watch out, folks.
Who is this guy? Portland Andy IRL. Hey, good for you, buddy. Live.
Gives me so live to know that.
No, don't talk. I can't search live because I'm not signed in. I'm not signing in. I don't have an account.
And it was really nice. He gave.
Shh, don't talk. Fortnite chats, outdoors, Minecraft, Call of Duty, talents, League of Legends, Rivals, Apex. Dude, what is this stream that he's got? Bro, where is he finding these streams?
Perfect.
At Smoke and Guns super chatted $10. Back in my day, getting iced was sneaking a Smirnoff into.
Bro. Why can I not find any live videos? Bro, why is this so hard? Oh, we gotta talk. We got a speaker.
Anyone for that matter, and your life is 100% safe.
I agree. I agree. Thank you, Smoke.
I don't want to steal his. He's clearly very good at what he does because he's got like 7 streams. So I'm not gonna just steal it from him. I'm not signing in. Can I not? Can I get by this without signing in? No, stop. Oh my gosh. All right, let's just go back and look for Minneapolis. Is this live? Oh, this one's live. Can you hear that? You guys can't hear that. You guys can't. Why is it suddenly I can't? It suddenly isn't playing my audio back?
In front of you so that it is on.
It doesn't play audio back on Twitch for some reason. Is it just a vigil there? I think so, yeah. That's an overhead shot. This is the AP, but that's not going to work. We already checked that one.
Was that someone would get killed, and that nightmare now playing out here on the streets of Minneapolis.
Yeah, and Corn, we know it's been incredibly emotional today. We're talking about something that happened at 9:30 this morning. People were at the scene. A lot of people witnessed what happened, and then crowds have gathered as a result. And it's just been an incredibly emotional day, given the fact that there was this ICE agent-involved shooting, a 37-year-old woman then losing her life during one of these detention operations.
What I hear from folks I talk to is that they feel less safe because they're going further. If they're approaching cars more often, maybe more people are trying to get away, and those vehicle rammings are increasing. I don't have any specifics about the other vehicle rammings that she's talking about today, but I do know it's a more common practice that we've just seen in this administration, that ICE officers and Border Patrol agents are approaching more people in their vehicles than we've seen in the past.
Julia Ainsley, thank you. I'm going to ask you to hang for a second because Maggie Veshler is back with us now on the ground there.
Bro, you've got people who don't speak English in cars. Did you guys already forget about what happened on those highways with those Indians? Bro, those Indians on those highways, bro, what happened? Like, because they can't read the signs. They don't speak English. Like, these people don't speak English, and we're just going to let them do whatever they want? Yeah, if you're in your car and you're illegal, you may not speak English. It's like you're a huge danger to everyone. Yes, we should be approaching you. Real quick, ex cathedra, DHS is like, oh, yo, that's guys, the guy who makes the aura edits of me is in the chat. Everybody say hi. The guy who makes the aura edits of me. The fact that you hate watch is so funny. So keep doing that, brother. DHS is lying. I saw the video, so there's that. Bro, I want the dude. Oh gosh. DHS is lying. I saw the video. I saw her hit the guy with his car. With her car. I saw her hit the agent with her car. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Maybe you're just stupid. It's my right as an American to not be able to read road signs. That's true. It is your right as an American to not be able to read road signs, but you therefore should not have a driver's license. Are you going to trust ex cathedra or your lying eyes and ears, Lamau? The lib Catholic who got upset at me for saying cool things says that I'm wrong. I must be wrong. But real quick, have I not said hi to anybody that's in the chat? I don't think so. There's 23 people watching live. Thank you so much for all you watching live. Say hi in the chat if you're watching and you haven't said hi yet. Mud Party, thank you for watching. I don't think I've said hi to you and said thank you.
Minneapolis. As Maggie, we are learning more now about the woman who was killed in Minneapolis today.
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune identifying her as Renee Nicole Good, 37 years old, according to multiple U.S. Officials and lawmakers, that she was a U.S. citizen.
Oh, yeah. My chat is better at being a streamer than I am. Please like and subscribe. My chat's better at this than I am.
And local officials here saying they think this is important, that she was absolutely not the target of ICE operations here in the area. People have been chanting her name in this crowd behind me. You saw this protest
it's not
here in the last...
It's literally, it is important that she's not, because it means that that's how brainwashed people are, is that they're willing to try to kill ICE agents, even if they're legal citizens who are being hurt by illegal immigration. Like, yeah, of course that's important to know.
Last hour, it's grown significantly since
Unleashed
then.
is here.
You can
Hello,
see
Unleashed.
her there, her mother telling the Star Tribune that, in her words, it was so stupid, the circumstances in which she was killed, and that, quote, her daughter was probably terrified.
It was stupid? Yeah, it was stupid to, it was stupid to roll up on ICE agents, like, in your car. Yeah, that was stupid. Minneapolis Star Tribune. Yo, mother identifies woman shot in, okay, here we go. Uh, family was notified late Wednesday morning. That's so stupid. Where'd it go? Bruh, what? I was reading that. Huh? I was reading that. Where'd it go? Where did it go? That's so stupid. She was killed, Granger said after learning some of the circumstance. She was probably terrified. Granger said her daughter is not part of anything like that at all, referring to protests challenging ICE. She tried to kill him, so push X to doubt. There was never an article. It just disappeared. Renee was one of the kindest people I've ever known. She was extremely compassionate. She tried to kill someone with her car. She's taken care of people all her life. She was loving, forgiving, and affectionate. She was an amazing human. No, she tried to kill someone with her car. A poet, writer, wife, and mom, and a shitty guitar strummer from Colorado, experiencing Minneapolis, Minnesota. What? Good has previously been married to Timmy Ray Macklin Jr., who died in 2023 at the age of 36. Macklin's father, Timmy Ray Sr., was shocked to hear the news that Good had been shot and killed. He said Good and his son had a child who's now 6 years old. There's nobody else in his life. Oh, that is really sad. I'll fly to come and get my grandchild. Wow, that is sad. How did this guy die at the age of 36? That's sad. What's Kai's argument? Timmy spent his entire life on the Oregon coast, dedicated. What was his cause of death? What was his cause of death? Oh, he's an Air Force veteran. That sucks. That's sad. That's sad.
Her name, again, ringing through this crowd.
In a different way.
Can I ask you, Julia, because one of the things we heard from Secretary Noem is she said that there have been 4 different vehicle rammings. I believe she said just in Minneapolis alone today.
Yeah, she said 4 total across the country, 3 of those in Minneapolis. Okay. I'm assuming she's counting this as 1, which means 2 others just in Minneapolis today. And I started thinking, why is this so common? She's basically painting the picture that this is this new form of protest and really what she's calling a new form of domestic terrorism to do a vehicle ramming. Now, typically, if you're covering law enforcement and you hear about a vehicle ramming, you think of something like New Orleans, New Year's Eve a year ago, where someone is purposely driving their car, using it as a vehicle.
New Orleans, New Year's Eve. Ramming. Bourbon Street attack. It was okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. What motivated Shamsud Din Jabbar drove his truck into a crowd of people? ISIS. It was Muslim. Shocker. Shocker. she was trying to get out of there and was just reckless enough to clip the guy. Maybe, but that doesn't mean she didn't, like, she hit an ICE agent. Like, look, this guy's reaching in. She has an officer reaching into her car to stop her, and she accelerates into the agents.
Crowd to kill as many people as possible. What we've seen in a lot of these vehicle rammings is that ICE and Border Patrol are approaching a lot of people in vehicles. We've seen people be dragged.
Like, they're trying to. It's law enforcement approaching the car, and then you start
Out of their vehicles, sometimes even as they're showing documentation that they are a U.S. citizen and
yeah.
should not be arrested for an immigration violation. And so it could be, just as we hear that assaults are up on ICE officers, what I hear from folks I talk to is that they feel less safe because they're going further. If they're approaching cars more often, maybe more people.
Okay. Yeah, this seems. Seems pretty obviously stupid on her part. Trump administration is a joke and will never do anything. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they are doing a lot. We do have net negative migration for the first time in a long time, so. I'm trying to find more coverage. Not seeing anything. Not seeing anything. Okay. Well, let's watch some more of the House.
On and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes have expired, and we would ask that you please wrap up. I now recognize Representative Robbins for her opening statement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you for inviting us to testify. As chair of the Fraud Prevention Committee in Minnesota, I've been working to uncover the massive fraud under Tim Walz, propose solutions, and hold state agencies accountable.
Okay, so real quick, let's do some background on this. Let's do some background on this. The legislature in Minnesota. Minnesota is one of those. Minnesota is one of those weird states that is. Sorry, you couldn't find any riots to laugh at? I didn't want to laugh at the riots. I wanted to watch and see what they were saying, but I can't find any coverage of them. So Minnesota is one of those weird states where what's the word I'm thinking of? The urban centers are so large that the governor will largely, pretty much 100% of the time, go Democrat, and so will the Senate. But the House, because it's the outlying areas, there's so much rural areas that are like Midwestern in culture, you'll get some more, you'll get a Republican-leaning lower house in the legislature. So that's the situation here. So this lady here is a state representative in the Minnesota House. So the Minnesota House, she's the chair of that committee because the Minnesota House is majority Republican.
Today, I will highlight the scale of the problem.
Why would we want to laugh at riots? libs cannot comprehend that conservatives want to desire to listen to people that they disagree with for the purposes of understanding what they think. They think the only reason to listen to somebody else who you disagree with is to laugh at them. Case in point, Ex Cathedra's entire channel is just listening to people he disagrees with to try to make fun of them instead of trying to understand what they're saying. I've lived in Minnesota my whole life. With the population in the Twin Cities and Duluth, we're going to have DFL governors until mass remigration occurs. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like, that's how you end up with this really kind of unique makeup of the legislature and government.
Outline the work our committee is doing to fight the fraud and provide a roadmap for other states on how to detect and stop fraud. Minnesota is one of the highest tax states in the nation, and hardworking Minnesotans have been told that they don't pay their fair share for years. In truth, Minnesotans pay much more in taxes than in other states, and when they pay their taxes, they expect that their money is going to things that help our communities: roads, schools, healthcare, and law enforcement. They do not want their tax dollars absconded by criminals to buy resorts and apartment buildings in Kenya, property in Turkey, and luxury homes and cars in the U.S. Tim Walz and his administration have willfully turned a blind eye to crime in the face of countless whistleblower and auditor reports, as well as stories by local investigative journalists and the Center of the American Experiment. These are actual crimes that must be punished. They are crimes against our moral values and erode trust in government. The time for accountability and justice is here. First, we are unearthing staggering amounts of fraud in Minnesota. As far back as 2014, there were credible whistleblower allegations of millions in daycare fraud. Instead of shutting it down, the state minimized whistleblower reports and allowed fraud to grow. Unfortunately, childcare fraud was just the tip of the iceberg. Since 2019, Tim Walz and Minnesota Democrats have allowed fraud to absolutely explode in Minnesota. There's been more than $300 million in the Feeding Our Future child nutrition program scandal, and the Feeding Our Future prosecutions revealed that as many as half of those indicted also ran other Medicaid-funded programs. Yet despite this being known back in 2023, Tim Walz and his agencies have done nothing to stop those defendants from getting additional state money. We have now found fraud in multiple Medicaid programs, including autism centers, sober homes, non-emergency medical transportation, integrated community supports, and housing stabilization. Just last month, our
Bro, Mud Party, don't get me started on women in travel culture. Don't get me started on that, dude. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Travel culture and putting off your vocation. It makes me so angry.
Held a hearing on credible allegations of fraud in two new areas: adult day services and assisted living. First, U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, the leading prosecutor in these cases from the Biden administration and the Trump administration, says the fraud could be an astronomical $9 billion. In the face of mounting reports and literal criminal indictments and convictions, the Walz administration has repeatedly and publicly denied or downplayed the fraud. Just last January, the commissioner of DHS, Jody Harpstead, who'd been on the job for 5.5 years, said, "There's a lot more rumors of fraud than there is actual fraud." You cannot make this up. The Walz administration has been gaslighting Minnesotans on the scale of the fraud problem for years. In response, when Republicans took control or ended Democrat control of the Minnesota House last year, we created the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee. Since last February, we have held 15 hearings where we have grilled officials, exposed new areas of fraud, and repeatedly flagged failures in internal controls. I authored a new law to expand whistleblower protection, and we created a portal, mnfraud.com, resulting in a surge of new whistleblower reports that our amazing staff is still working through. Under the leadership of our Vice Chair, Patty Anderson, we passed a bipartisan bill in the Senate to create an independent Office of Inspector General. When it got to the House, Democrats killed it because the DHS commissioner testified against it. The Tim Walz administration has utterly failed to protect Minnesota taxpayers and vulnerable citizens, ignoring years of credible reports and retaliating against those who spoke up, often by claiming they were racist or Islamophobic. Tim Walz and the Democrats have repeatedly protected their political base at the expense of all Minnesotans. Other states should learn from the failures of the Walz administration, so I'll give you a quick roadmap on how to find and stop fraud. First, culture matters. Fraud flourishes when leaders ignore it and criminals see they can get away with it. Second, fraud flourishes when basic internal controls are not followed. This is not complicated. Third, you have to look at the interconnections of relationships in businesses in multiple program areas in Medicaid. It's a huge red flag that has been ignored in our state. Finally, it is important to say what is true and to stand up against fake allegations of racism or Islamophobia. Crime is crime no matter who is committing it. It is true that the majority of the fraud in Minnesota has taken place in the Somali community. And it is also true that some of our best whistleblowers are from the Somali community.
2% of Minnesota's population is 2% Somalian, and they have committed 90% of the fraud.
Democrats refuse to acknowledge this truth, and that has enabled criminals to steal billions and hurt our vulnerable citizens. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to share the lessons from Minnesota and for your help in investigating these crimes. The time for justice and accountability is now.
I now recognize...
Yes, Masterion, it was about a Somalia's worth of money.
Representative Hudson for his opening statement.
Chairman, ranking member, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today for the record. I am Minnesota State Representative.
This is another Minnesota state representative.
Walter Hudson, a second-term member who sits on our House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee.
I believe
The
Walter
recent national
Hudson
conversation
is
about fraud in Minnesota has been
also
fraught
Republican.
with distractions, diverting from critical concerns regarding process, policy, and oversight to sideshow concerns about personalities and partisan politics. My role here today is to cut through all of that and provide you with a clear picture of a culture which has developed over many years around the several generous benefit programs which Minnesota provides to our residents. Well-documented oversight failures have led to a lack of program integrity, creating incentives for people to monetize programs beyond their legislative intent to turn benefits into business. Contrary to the claim just made by the ranking member that there is no evidence of this fraud, attached to my written testimony, you will find a document which collates several reports made over the past 15 years by Minnesota's nonpartisan Office of Legislative Auditor, along with transcripts of each of our hearings from the Fraud Committee, where we heard directly from staff and leaders within the state agencies which administer these programs. Here's what that record indicates. Within the state of Minnesota, government oversight has been unable to keep up with program expansion due to a combination of factors. 1, rapid expansion of funding and provider participation. 2, payment systems that prioritize access and speed. 3, verification mechanisms that occur after funds are distributed. 4.
Dude. Verification methods happen after funds are distributed. Oh, because that's not retarded? Bruh. Come on. Verification happens after the funds are distributed. Oh, you don't say. Dude. Come on. Insane that Minnesota was literally handing away free money. It sounds like it, right? Verification after you get the money sounds a heck of a lot like have some free. I want some money. Okay, here you go. Hey, do you deserve that money? Yes. Good enough for me. By the way, guys, check out the new wall. Can we talk about the wall real quick? Talk about how cool it is. I filled all the negative space with my black and white photos. Pretty sick, huh? It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. It's all my black and white prints, except for these ones right here that you can't see because they're of my friends and families, families of my friends in town that I'm giving to them, and I don't want to publish their. But I did find this one. I didn't take this one, but this is that photo of me and Mother Natalia and Father Boniface. This is a great photo. It's kind of blurry, but it's not. The photo isn't blurry. My camera's blurry when I get close to it, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, cool wall. Thank you. Yeah, this is the greatest photograph I've ever taken. This is top 10. This one's top 10. This one isn't that good, but I like it a lot. I know you guys can't really see them, but yeah. Filling the negative space with black and white photos. I wonder if they even checked if they were in Minnesota. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I have to pee. And I want a twisted tea. So I'm going to go do that. I'll put the music on. We got new music, by the way, if you didn't notice. My roommate bought a case of Twisted Tea before he left for Christmas, and I think there's 2 in the case right now. And he gets back in like an hour, so hopefully he won't notice and I can just replace it. Hopefully he won't notice and I can just replace it tomorrow before he, so. Thursday, you don't have a piss cam? Give the people what they want. Yo, my chat is crazy. The GDP of Texas being higher than Canada always sends me. Yeah, California has the 5th highest GDP of the 5th largest economy in the world. Like, literally. So that's crazy. Yeah. All right. Back to
Oversight
this.
capacity that does not scale with spending. And 5, diffuse accountability across agencies and contractors. This combination of factors has fostered a booming new sector of the economy that relies upon the continuation of and expansion of government programs to fuel private sector profits. I want to be clear. Even when the law...
If you're watching right now, I want you to scroll down, click the share button, and then click copy on the link. Or if you're on your phone, do the same. And then you don't even have to share it, right? You should. You should send this to somebody who you think would enjoy the stream. But if you just do that, YouTube thinks that you are sharing it. So just click share and click copy so that YouTube thinks you're sharing the stream. Do that right now. Do it. Do it. Do it now. Yeah. Okay.
Law is being followed precisely by every jot and tittle. Incentives still exist to abuse these programs and waste taxpayer dollars by diverting funding to profit centers rather than providing a safety net for those in temporary need. Now, criminal fraud is rampant. Deputy U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, serving the District of Minnesota, has said that he could keep 1,000 prosecutors busy. But he's limited to a mere 25, only 5 of which are tasked with building fraud cases. He estimates that the total amount of criminal fraud over 5 years may reach $9 billion, which is fully 1/2 of the money that has been directed to these programs by the state. While Governor Tim Walz and other stakeholders dispute that assessment, the point I wish to emphasize is this. Whatever the actual number is, the full scope of the problem is not just criminal fraud, but a culture of profiting from government programs in perpetuity, not as a safety net, but as an industry. I've personally met and had discussions with folks who identify themselves as consultants for multiple entities accepting government benefits. They have made a career out of showing people how to leverage the gaps in government oversight to maximize benefit payments. Now, such conduct may not actually break the law, and that's the point. We have a system whereby an entire industry can operate under the color of law, raking in tremendous profits for individuals, all while having no incentive to save the taxpayer money or lift legitimate beneficiaries out of need. Instead, as the market for funneling benefits into businesses increases,
I like this
so
guy.
too does the perceived need for benevolent services.
We like Walter Hudson. I'm digging him. He's got, his vibe's good. Also, they always have Deer Park water bottles for the witnesses. So do they just not have, why is Deer Park the chosen one in DC? It's not a generic brand. So why is it Deer Park? Do you think that Deer Park has a deal with the federal government to supply them with water? That's interesting. Good question. Also, there's a Ticonderoga pencil right here.
If nothing changes, if oversight is not tightened, if incentives are not changed, spending on these programs will only continue to increase with no commensurate increase in either public good or public confidence in our governing institutions. Thank you for the opportunity to submit this testimony for the record. I look forward to answering what questions I can.
Thank you. I now recognize Representative Rarick
Cheapest name
for her opening
brand.
statement.
Okay, that checks out.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. For the record, my name is Marion Rarick, and I am currently serving in the Minnesota House of Representatives in House District 29B. I am a member on the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee, which was recently formed in January of 25. I was first asked to serve on the committee on January 4th.
Her
and soon
mic
after,
echo is not
the 5
me.
Republican members began to meet. During one of those discussions, I was asked to reach out to the Department of Human Services whistleblowers on X, now called Minnesota Staff Fraud Reporting Commentary. I had been following them in the previous year. I reached out through a direct tweet on X on January 16th, and the very same day I got a response back that yes, they would be willing to speak to the Fraud Prevention Committee. Since that first contact, Chair Robbins and I and Representative Hudson have had multiple conference calls with them, and we have had one in-person meeting.
Okay, so that account is
At that meeting, they
real.
were both
That's a
former
big.
and
I didn't
current
know if that
employees.
account was real or if that was like one person pretending to be a bunch of people. So that account is real. Deer Park Blue Titran brands, formerly Nestle. Oh, so that's just Nestle. That's interesting.
I've continued to message with them very often, sometimes daily, and their collective message has been completely consistent. Instead of focusing on fraudsters, DHS leadership instead focused its surveillance on employees. Since then, their expressed fear of retaliation has intensified under an avalanche of fraud in Minnesota. Their numbers have grown from 480 DHS employees, both current and former, to over 1,000 across multiple state agencies. They have told me repeatedly how grateful they are to the House Fraud Prevention Committee for focusing our attention on fraud in the state programs, using their inside information while keeping them completely protected. They have explained that they live in a constant state of fear of retaliation. One only has to look at what happened to Faye Bernstein to understand why. In a very recent Newsweek article dated December 13th of 25, Ms.
Who is Faye Bernstein? Faye Bernstein. Faye Bernstein, Minnesota whistleblower, exposed compliance issues. Department of Human Service facing retaliation for her actions. Prominent. Okay, all right, yeah. So she did the cool thing and then was punished for it.
Ms. Bernstein, a former compliance specialist, stated, Minnesota DHS functions in the opposite manner as you would think. Employees who suggest improvements or, heaven forbid, report fraud then face significant retaliation. The messenger is shot. In 2019, Bernstein said she alerted Minnesota DHS officials to sloppy contracting practices that were not legally compliant. But it's not what most people.
This guy, Hudson, he's reading her statement as she's going along, which is funny to me. I don't know why, but it is funny to me that he's like,
would even consider fraud. She says she was later escorted out of the building, faced lengthy investigation, got trespassed from all DHS
okay, now he's looking at her. But did you see a minute ago he was looking down at the paper?
Transfer to another state agency.
There it is.
So she says,
bam,
so today if
right
someone
there.
asks me, should I report fraud within DHS? I say, no, no, no. It is career suicide plus a whole lot more. So let's talk about that plus a whole lot more. In our face-to-face meetings with a group of whistleblowers, they revealed that retaliation now includes threats of being fired with cause, which means you do not get unemployment insurance in the state of Minnesota, being blacklisted from all state agencies, and I would note most likely our largest counties as well, which are Democrat-run. And then there was a veiled threat of the use of military intelligence against them. They later informed me that it was discovered that in some targeted employees or suspected whistleblowers' personnel files were pictures of their homes and their cars.
Bro.
They also described that supervisors asked them questions about their families that to them felt like a threat. One example was, we need to know where your kids go to school and where their bus stops are. I will also note that whistleblowers spoke to described many times that DHS used surveillance programs to surveil employees' emails and chats and other communications, looking for keywords like fraud, double billing, underspending, and overpayments. One example that the whistleblowers let me know about Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. April 12th, 2024. Flanagan comes to a DHS Health and Human Services Equity Conference at the Heritage Center in Brooklyn Center. On stage, Flanagan acknowledges the X account and the fraud concerns it raised and publicly denounced the X users and called them weirdos and losers sitting in their mother's basement. This was in a public setting with hundreds of participants and it elicited gasps among the crowd. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yo, what?
I now recognize Mr. Ballou.
Yo, this woman, that was a peak woman moment to end on the lieutenant governor said a mean thing and not end on they keep their homes in the personnel files and ask where their kids get off the bus? Dude, you got, okay. You got to end on that one. You got, whoa. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you should have ended with that hook. You know what I mean? You got to end with that right hook. You just got to. You got to end with that right hook.
For his opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Brendan Ballou. I'm a former federal prosecutor and a native Minnesotan. Like all Minnesotans, like all Americans who have heard this story, I am deeply distressed by the fraud.
So what is your position currently? I don't care if you're a former federal prosecutor and you live in Minnesota. I want to know if you I want to know what you do right now. Was this the Democrats' best get? Was a dude who used to do stuff?
On the state social service programs. Most notably, in 2022, the Department of Justice indicted 47 people for stealing an estimated $246 million in funds meant to feed children during the COVID-19 pandemic. As late as 2025, 78 people have been indicted as part of the scheme, and 56 have pleaded guilty. More recently, the department has charged over a dozen people for stealing $14 million.
Yes, you should vote for Casey Putsch. I'm hoping to volunteer on his campaign. I'll be doing some work for his campaign, I think. I'll be doing some work for his campaign. You should vote for him. He seems to be the good guy. Seems to be a decent guy, decent man. I'm supporting him. I'll be voting for him.
From a program meant for children with autism, and millions more from a program meant to help disabled Minnesotans maintain stable housing. This is heartbreaking for several reasons. At the most basic level, money meant for the neediest among us, the hungry, the disabled, the destitute, was stolen. I fear that skepticism of Minnesota's social safety net, one of the things that makes the state great, will grow, and it will be harder to fund these programs in the future. And I fear that the actions of a few people will be used to demonize an entire population of Somali and East African Minnesotans who overwhelmingly have made the state more vibrant, more diverse, and more prosperous. I also fear the selective interest in fraud in America, because at the same time that these crimes are rightly being investigated by state and federal authorities, the larger infrastructure for prosecuting fraud and white-collar crime is being dismantled. Let me give you a few examples. In February 2025, the Department of Justice paused enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits foreign bribery, and criminal violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which, as the name suggests, prohibits acting as a secret agent of a foreign power.
I'm sorry, they did what?
In 2025, the Department of Justice paused enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which
2025, February 25 Foreign Corrupt Practices. The President's Foreign Policy Authority, overexpansive, unpredictable FCPA enforcement against American citizens and businesses by our own government for routine business practice in other nations not only wastes limited prosecutorial resources that could be dedicated to preserving other American freedoms, but actually harms American economic competitiveness and therefore national security. Section 2, policy of enforcement discretion. For a period of 180 days following this order, the Attorney General shall review the guidelines and policies governing investigations and enforcement actions under FCPA. During the review period, the Attorney General shall cease initiation of any new FCPA investigations or enforcement actions unless the Attorney General determines that an individual exception should be made, reviewing in detail all existing FCPA investigations or enforcement actions, and take appropriate action with respect to such matters to restore proper bounds on FCPA enforcement and preserve presidential foreign policy prerogatives, and issue updated guidelines. May extend for an additional 180 days. FCPA investigations and enforcement actions initiated or continued after the revised guidelines or policies are issued under subsection A shall be governed by such guidelines or policies, and that must be specifically authorized by the Attorney General. General provisions, nothing short or compared otherwise affect. Okay, so what did FCPA do? Prohibits American companies and individuals as well as certain foreign entities from bribing foreign government officials to gain or retain businesses, applying strict anti-bribery rules. Okay, wait, it was just you couldn't bribe other people's governments? I mean, okay. Pay author. Huh. All right, well, that doesn't sound as bad as he's making it out to be, but it's not cool. Kind of wish Trump hadn't done that. But that really doesn't sound as bad as he's making it out to be. Oh, yikes. Oh, wow. This is really bad. Trump should not have done this. damaged by over-enforcement of FC. They are prohibited from engaging in practices common among international competitors, creating an uneven playing field. Okay, so the idea here is, all right, I don't think Trump should have done this, but the idea here is that, like, FCPA prevented American companies from doing things that foreign companies are being able to do, putting American companies at a disadvantage. Probably shouldn't have done this, though, from what I can tell. But that's way less bad and this has literally nothing to do with what's going on in Minnesota. Like, it could not be less related.
Bribery and criminal violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which, as the name suggests, prohibits acting as a secret agent of a foreign power. Between February and April of last year, the Department, the name suggests, Practices Act. Let me give you a few examples. In February 2025, the Department of Justice paused enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits foreign bribery, and criminal violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which, as the name suggests, prohibits acting as a secret. In February 2025, the Department of Justice paused enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits foreign bribery, and criminal violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which, as the name suggests, prohibits acting as a secret.
Criminal violations, but not civil violations? Okay. Pause on FARA? I didn't know he paused FARA. That's a problem. Bruh. Trump, what are we doing? Temporary freeze federal grants and loans for review impacting foreign aid, housing, and other programs, while DOJ rolled back FARA enforcement, focusing on direct espionage rather than on broad propaganda. Okay, so that's not, once again, not what happened. Okay. The idea is you should be, like, they don't want to focus on people just doing, like, money stuff. Like, oh, you got some money from this other country, and they want to focus it on, like, are you doing espionage for another country? So, once again, probably not wise, but the idea of what happened is that you can focus prosecutorial resources on the more harmful thing happening. So, not a huge fan of that, but also not nearly as bad as he makes it sound.
Secret agent of a foreign power. Between February and April of last year, the department disbanded its Klepto Capture Task Force, which enforced sanctions against Russian oligarchs, and the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. And last year, the department forced out most of...
Bro, why are we... Okay. I'm just... Okay.
The lawyers of the Public Integrity Section, which prosecutes crimes by government officials, announced plans to dismantle the Tax Division, which prosecutes tax evasion, and shuttered the FBI task force that investigated congressional misconduct. More than just dismantling infrastructure for pursuing violations of the law, the government is, for favored defendants, appearing to enable it. In 2024, the Justice Department indicted Andrew Wiederhorn, the CEO of a casual fast food chain, for allegedly stealing $47 million from his own company. After his business donated $100,000 to the Trump inaugural committee, his case was dropped, and the line-level prosecutor on his case was fired. In 2021, the department sued Boeing for deceiving the government about the software that caused 2 plane crashes, killing 346 people.
Okay. We have talked about this before, actually. If you remember, all the way back this time last year, we talked about this, that a lot of this stuff, while not ideal, is, you have to picture, so we're in a political legal war. So you have to consider things like that in that context, right? So the context here, because we're in a political and legal war, is that the analogy is that it's not good to kill someone, but it is just to, if you're in a war and somebody's trying to kill you, to shoot back at them. So it's not good to let a lot of these people off. But the idea is that you have to do bad things to win a war. You have to reward your friends and punish your enemies. And so because none of these things are direct violations of the natural or divine law, discretion within human law to reward one's friends who are helping you make a more just society, a more naturally and divinely just society is, okay. Especially because human law is a vehicle towards the common good and not an end in of itself.
After donating $1 million to the inaugural committee, Boeing negotiated a favorable deferred prosecution.
Is he saying Somalian fraud good because Trump bad? He's saying no. No, he's saying Somalian fraud distraction because Trump do fraud. But I'm not seeing any proof of that. What I'm seeing, looking up all of his citations, what we just saw was actually that Trump has paused certain lesser offenses for the purposes of being able to focus prosecutorial resources on worse offenses. But the friend enemy distinction is literally the Austrian painter. Yeah, so here's the thing about the friend enemy distinction, right? Schmidt is wrong. There's this great essay. I'm allowed to have a bookshelf, by the way. When people make fun of the Christian and the Catholic podcasts and streamers for just having bookshelves in their shop, I'm allowed to have a bookshelf. Whoa, 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 whoa. What the heck was all that? Oh. One of the streams got a audio feed up, and I had it unmuted. I'm allowed to have a bookshelf, by the way. It scared the crap out of me. I'm allowed to have a bookshelf, by the way, because I actually use my books. So, there's a great essay on Schmidt in this book, The Church Against the State by Andrew Willard Jones. And so the problem with Schmidt is he defines enmity as as a positive thing, as a substantive thing, and then he defines friendship as privative, as in lack of enmity. So Schmidt's definition of enmity is non-Christian. It defines the evil as having substance, not as being a privation of the good. He also has this whole thing about loving your enemies, where if you go read Schmidt, he says that you don't have to love your public enemies, you only have to love your private enemies. And he does this really terrible translative work where he defines, he says that, I'll just read you directly here. It says, Schmidt uses this assertion to circumvent the implication of Christ's command to love your enemies. Having asserted that only what is public can be political, Schmidt reads the commandment as essentially apolitical. The often quoted "love your enemies" reads "diligente inimicos vesteros," not "diligente hostes vesteros," no mention of the political enemy. Schmidt's exegesis depends entirely on the idea that ecteros are exclusively private adversaries, objects of personal rancor, but never political enemies, objects of war. This is not, however, the word used elsewhere in the Holy Scripture. Mary proclaims the power of Christ, who promises to give Israel, quote, salvation from our ecteros enemies and from the hands of those who hate us, who could hardly have limited to private enemies. Jesus quotes the divine promise made to King David's enemies as ecteros in parables. The word is used to denote explicitly political enemy when the enemies of a king refuse his rule. Quote, bring here those enemies, ecteros of mine, who did not want me to reign over them, and slay them before me. In the Vulgate, things are even worse for Schmidt. The first appearance of inimicos, and you shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you, and by the sword, Leviticus 26. Throughout the entirety of the Old Testament and into the New, inimicos are political enemies more clearly than personal. It is the enemy against whom Israel wars, the enemy about whom the Lord says to David, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. Schmidt makes a distinction that the Scriptures simply do not sustain. The Scriptures know that the enemy of the nation and the enemy of man cannot but be at the point of battle the same. Schmidt has some serious issues. That does not mean that friends and enemies are distinct, and it does not mean that he is wrong about the lack of liberal, neutral institutions. This is another quote from Jones. One can see why a Christian might be inspired by Schmidt's description. Supposedly ideal forms like the, quote, right to privacy, supposedly neutral forms like the public fair, and supposedly square and supposedly non-ideological institutions like the Supreme Court are, as we constantly see, tools used to attack and demean Christianity at its and its vision for political order, it turns out that far from coexisting with the neutral space of politics, Christians are excluded from it. And after reading Schmitt, the idea that Christian ends can be reached by negotiating for fair outcomes from officially quote-unquote neutral political institutions appear frankly pathetic. Schmitt is a solvent dissolving our lingering liberal childishness. Christians must actually wield power necessary to win the war, declare evil men enemies, found institutions, enforce order, and direct civilization towards good ends. Christians must lead. So, that part of Schmitt is good. If that's all you want to take from Schmitt, that's fine. However, the problem is his larger political theology and his friend-enemy distinction, when you delve further into it, is based on a non-Christian, a belief of a definition of enmity and a substantive problem which is not compatible with the scriptures. Yeah. I'll put it back on the shelf now. There we go. Question: as a non-American, why does Trump want Greenland so much? That's a pretty easy answer, actually. Um, if I can find the right map here, I can show you. Let me see if I can find the right map. No. Okay, this one will work. This doesn't have the borders, but this one will work. Okay, that's unhelpful. Open image in new tab. So, Greenland has all of this territory, right? And we already have this border up here that we effectively share with Russia, like this stuff right here. People don't realize you can literally see Russia from the United States. However, Russia can set sail from like this area in here and come down into here. And a lot of this area is legally owned by Denmark via Greenland. So the Greenland Sea, you can see right here. So that would give us a lot more buffer zone from Russia, and it would give us more shipping lanes and enable us to shut off Russia's shipping lanes in ways that would allow us to put more pressure on them, exert more pressure on them. So that's why. Pretty simple. Not actually that complicated. They're cheering on your bookshelf. I feel like that's what was happening. Should we listen to them real quick, see if they're saying anything? Hello? Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Testing? Hello? Testing? Okay, hello? You can hear me. Testing? Can you hear this? Hello? You can hear me. Can you hear this? You can hear me. Can you hear this? Okay, you can hear that. Okay. Huh. My monitor is frozen. My audio monitor is frozen. Hold on, let me do this.